Welcome to the deep dive. We're strapping in for a journey through Samantha Harvey's Orbital.
Oh, this is a good one.
It is. Imagine yourself alongside 6 astronauts hurtling around the Earth at 17,500 miles per hour.
Wow.
Experiencing a single 24-hour period, but witnessing, get this, 16 sunrises and 16 sunsets.
16.
16. Each one marks a new orbit in the novel structure.
That's how the book is structured. Clever.
It's brilliant. It really makes you think about how time gets warped in space.
Right. Our normal sense of time goes out the window.
Exactly. We're talking about a world where the mundane meets the extraordinary.
How so?
These astronauts on the International Space Station are surrounded by the wonders of space.
Of course, yeah.
But they're also dealing with very ordinary, even tedious tasks.
Really? Like what?
Cleaning the space station's toilet, meticulously documenting their bowel movements for research.
Wow, that's a contrast.
It is, but it's also fascinating. Like, they're growing heart cells in a lab up there.
Heart cells?
Well, to study how microgravity affects their development.
Makes sense. But also, kind of unsettling, no.
It is. When you think about it, the same changes happening to those cells are likely happening to their own hearts.
Yeah, there's a whole other layer of risk there. It's not just space debris or equipment malfunction.
Exactly. It makes you realize the toll space travel takes on the human body. And it's woven into how the astronauts see Earth.
They're constantly looking down at Earth.
Obsessively at first, they're captivated by the city lights. But as the orbits go on,
Your perspective shifts.
they become drawn to the daytime views.
Ah, I see. The vast continents, the swirling ocean.
Exactly. The ever-changing weather systems. It's like they start to understand how interconnected and fragile everything is.
The overview effect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Astronauts talk about this profound shift in awareness. Seeing the Earth from space changes everything.
I can imagine. National boundaries and political differences seem less important.
And that shift also impacts how they view humanity's impact on Earth. Initially, they see this resilient planet.
Untouched by human affairs.
Almost. But then they start to notice the signs.
Smog, deforestation, the melting glaciers.
And the consequences of political decisions become starkly real.
Wow. So they're seeing Earth with fresh eyes.
Realizing that even from hundreds of miles away, we have a huge effect.
I bet. So what happens when news breaks about a new mission launching to the moon? How do they react?
That's an interesting part. It triggers a wave of complex emotions, pride in this human achievement,
Of course.
but also tinged with envy and resentment.
Really? Why resentment?
It's a reminder of what they're missing out on. They're doing important work in orbit,
Yeah.
but it's not the same as setting foot on another celestial body.
Right. I get it. It's like being so close, but not quite there.
One astronaut, Anton, has this recurring dream about the iconic photo.
Which one?
The lunar module lifting off from the moon's surface with the Earth in the background.
Powerful image.
It becomes this symbol of human ambition to explore.
But also
The melancholy of leaving our home planet behind.
makes you wonder, what does Orbital say about humanity's place in the universe?
It really grapples with some pretty profound philosophical questions, like the cosmic calendar.
The what?
It compresses the entire history of the universe into a single year.
Okay.
From that perspective, human existence is just a tiny blip.
Wow. Makes you feel insignificant.
It can, but it also highlights the potential we have. Think about all we've achieved in such a short cosmic time.
It's mind-boggling, both sides of the coin. That's the beauty of it, I guess. Orbital is you confront the vastness of the universe.
And at the same time, it celebrates human curiosity, our drive to understand the power of connection across those distances.
It's about more than just science then. It's about people too.
It is. These astronauts aren't just scientists. They have families, loves, fears.
Like anybody else.
Exactly. We see them grapple with grief and longing. Think about trying to maintain relationships from hundreds of miles away.
Oh, tough.
One astronaut, Chi, learns of her mother's death while in orbit. It's heartbreaking to see her process this loss in such an extraordinary setting.
Trying to reconcile personal grief with the beauty of space.
Exactly. And then there's Nell. Her husband is firmly rooted on Earth.
Who doesn't want to go to space?
He's content with life on Earth, but to Nell, it now seems mundane and limiting.
Two different views of the world. One yearning for the unknown, the other for stability.
It highlights the tensions that come when people experience the world so differently. But the need for connection remains.
Makes sense. What about the astronauts struggling with faith in science?
Sean. He's surrounded by evidence of the universe's vastness, but he clings to his belief in a higher power.
Interesting. Even when pushing the boundaries of knowledge, our beliefs shape how we understand the world?
Absolutely. Orbital also celebrates human ingenuity, all those scientific experiments.
What kind of experiments?
Well, growing protein crystals in microgravity, for one.
What's that good for?
It could lead to new drugs. You know, even with existential questions swirling around, they're still making tangible contributions to science.
Right. And what about that golden record on the Voyager spacecraft?
That's such a powerful image. It speaks to our desire to connect, reaching out across unimaginable distances, saying, we are here.
But what if no one's listening?
It's a chilling thought, right? It reflects a deeper anxiety that runs throughout the novel.
What kind of anxiety?
That awareness of our fragility, our vulnerability in the face of forces beyond our control.
But there's hope too, right? The astronauts keep exploring.
They do, pushing the boundaries even when facing the unknown. It's like they're sailors on a ship on a deep, dark, unswimmable sea.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Captures the courage, the acceptance of risk.
It's inherent in any truly groundbreaking endeavor. And you know, there's another layer to it, beyond the awe of the overview effect.
What's that?
A profound unease of being fundamentally out of place. They're living in this meticulously controlled environment,
Right.
but they know they're utterly dependent on technology for survival. One astronaut describes it as feeling like a tinned man in a tin can. 4 inches of titanium separating him from the vacuum of space.
Makes you think twice about progress. How far should we go? What are the risks?
And then there's the debris orbiting Earth, shattered satellites, spent rocket stages, a lost tool bag.
It's like a cosmic junkyard.
A testament to our ambition and the unintended consequences.
And a threat to future missions, I bet.
Definitely. You know, even with all their training, these astronauts are still prone to human error. Moments of doubt.
Oh, I'm sure. Give me an example.
There's a scene where Roman spends hours looking for a tiny screw.
A screw.
It came loose from a pair of scissors. Seems trivial.
Yeah.
But in space, the smallest mistake can be catastrophic. Highlights the need for vigilance, attention to detail.
Must be exhausting. But also, there's beauty in that dedication, right?
Absolutely. It speaks to a different definition of success, not just reaching goals.
But the ongoing effort, the constant striving to understand, even with setbacks.
And this is where Harvey's use of language is so powerful.
It is. How did you describe it?
Poetic. Evocative. She captures the wonder and terror of space.
The immensity, but also the fragility of human life.
Yes. There's this line, the Earth's atmosphere is a gentle green line against the blackness of space.
It gives me chills.
So simple, yet profound. It's like finding new ways to express the inexpressible.
Emotions and experiences that are hard to put into words.
Exactly. And it's not just the descriptions of space. It's how she portrays the astronauts' inner lives.
Their hopes and fears, their moments of quiet reflection.
Right. Do you have a favorite passage that captures the essence of Orbital?
There's a line about the Earth being a suspended jewel, so shockingly bright. It just stayed with me.
Wow. The beauty and fragility of our planet.
Exactly. This precious oasis of life. It makes you think about what we have to lose and what we should be fighting to protect.
It's a powerful message. Makes you want to appreciate the world with fresh eyes, both its grandeur and its delicate balance.
And it makes you think about our responsibility to each other. Because ultimately, Orbital is about interconnectedness.
Yes. The shared human experience that transcends boundaries and extends even to the farthest reaches of space.
That's powerful. Speaking of far reaches, we haven't talked about the ending yet, without giving anything away.
It's both hopeful and unsettling. It leaves you with a lot to think about.
A fitting end to a novel that asks big questions. It doesn't give easy answers, but leaves you with a sense of possibility. That even facing the unknown, there's still room for wonder.
It lingers. It makes you want to reread certain passages to see if you missed anything.
Like there are hidden layers of meaning.
There is a sense of mystery throughout the novel, and it continues even after you've finished reading.
Inviting you to find your own meaning in their experiences.
It's a testament to the power of literature.
To transport us to other worlds and challenge our perspectives. To see our own world in a new light.
And to remind us of the power of storytelling.
To connect us across time and space. To remind us that even in this vast, often indifferent universe, we're not alone. It really does. It makes you think, what's the role of observation when you're faced with that kind of suffering?
Right. Like, does seeing it mean you have to do something, even if you can't from up there?
A heavy question. And one we face down here too, right?
Yeah.
We see all these crises happening around the world.
All the time. It's tough. But something else I've been thinking about, their experience of time, seeing 16 sunrises and sunsets every 24 hours.
Oh yeah, totally warps your perception. Harvey does such a good job conveying that through the book's structure, all those fragments.
Makes you feel a little disoriented just reading it.
Imagine living it, like perpetual jet lag. Day and night have no meaning.
One astronaut keeps a tally of each new day just to try and anchor himself.
But it's a losing battle, right?
You can't escape the reality of that environment. And in that environment, the idea of home takes on a whole new meaning. You're surrounded by the wonders of space.
But your thoughts drift back to Earth.
To loved ones. The smells, the tastes, the feeling of the sun on your skin, everything you miss.
That longing permeates the whole novel. There's this one passage that describes Earth as the face of an exalted lover.
Wow.
Captures it perfectly right. The awe, the longing, the bittersweet realization of something precious just out of reach.
You mentioning lover makes me think Orbital explores so many different kinds of love and loss. Remember Chi.
Grieving her mother while floating in space. So powerful.
Jaw-breaking. And then you have Nell. Her husband's happy on Earth, content with a life that seems so limiting to her now.
Two different paths. One seeking the unknown, the other stability.
Exactly. It shows how two people can experience the world in such different ways. But even with those differences, the need for connection remains.
It's a fundamental human thing, I guess.
It is. And then there's Sean, grappling with his faith while doing all this science.
It's a tough one. He's surrounded by evidence of this vast universe, but still holds on to his belief in a higher power.
Exactly. Shows that our personal beliefs are still so important, even as we learn more about the universe. But, Orbital also celebrates that scientific drive. They're not just gazing at stars. There's all this research happening.
Like what?
Remember, growing protein crystals in microgravity could have huge implications for medicine.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So even with all these existential questions, they're making tangible contributions to science.
Pretty amazing. But there are moments, right, where it all gets a bit much. The scale of the universe.
Absolutely. Like when they're talking about Voyager, hurtling through space, carrying that golden record, sounds and images of Earth.
A message in a bottle.
Hoping someone out there will find it, but what if no one does?
Kind of a scary thought.
It is. It reflects this underlying anxiety that runs through the whole book.
About our place in all of this. About our vulnerability.
Exactly. But even with that anxiety, there's still this wonder, this hope. The astronauts keep pushing the boundaries.
There's that line, right, about them being sailors on a ship on a deep, dark, unswimmable sea. Oh, love that one.
Such a great image. It captures their courage, their acceptance of the unknown.
And there's something else too. Beyond that sense of awe from seeing Earth from above.
What's that?
There's this feeling of unease, like being fundamentally out of place.
Interesting.
They're living in this perfectly designed, controlled environment.
Right.
But they're completely dependent on technology to survive. Remember when the astronaut describes himself as a tinned man in a tin can?
Just a thin layer of metal separating him from the vacuum of space.
Exactly. Makes you wonder, are we pushing too far? What are the consequences? Orbital doesn't shy away from those questions.
It doesn't. And then you have the debris orbiting Earth, all that junk. It's a reminder, isn't it?
Of what?
Of our ambition, but also the unintended consequences of our actions.
And a real danger to future missions.
Definitely. And even with all their expertise, they're still human, still make mistakes.
I'm sure. What kind of mistakes?
Remember when Roman spends hours searching for that tiny screw, the one that came loose from the scissors?
Yeah. Why was that such a big deal?
In space, any little thing can be a disaster. It shows how they have to be constantly vigilant, focused on every detail.
Sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
But also kind of beautiful, right?
It is. It redefines success. It's not just about the destination. It's about the journey, the effort, the constant striving.
And it takes a special kind of person to do that.
Definitely. And this is where Harvey's writing shines, the way she uses language to capture it all.
It's beautiful, isn't it? How would you describe it?
Poetic, evocative. She can make you feel the wonder and the terror of space.
The vastness of it all and how fragile we are.
There's one line that always sticks with me. She describes the Earth's atmosphere as a gentle green line against the blackness of space.
So simple, but so powerful.
Right. She finds these ways to express things that are almost impossible to put into words.
And it's not just the descriptions of space. It's how she gets inside the astronauts' heads, their thoughts, fears, dreams.
Yes, those quiet moments of reflection. It all feels so real. Do you have a favorite passage? One that really captures the heart of the book?
Oh, there's one about the Earth. She calls it a suspended jewel, so shockingly bright.
Wow, I remember that one.
It's perfect, right? The beauty and fragility all wrapped up in one image makes you realize what we have to protect.
It's a powerful message, and it makes you want to look at the world differently, to appreciate the little things, the big things, the balance of it all.
And our responsibility to each other. Because at its core, that's what Orbital's about. We're all connected, no matter how far apart we are.
Exactly. It's a shared human experience that stretches beyond Earth and into the vastness of space.
So, speaking of vastness,
Yeah,
we haven't talked about the ending, no spoilers, but
it's an interesting one.
it's hopeful and unsettling at the same time.
Yeah, it makes you think, which is fitting for a book like this. It asks big questions, but it doesn't give you all the answers.
It leaves you with this feeling of possibility, that even with all the unknowns, there's still so much to discover.
And wonder about. It makes you want to go back and reread parts. See if you missed anything.
Like a puzzle you keep wanting to solve.
Exactly. It shows the power of good storytelling.
To take us to different worlds and challenge how we see things.
And ultimately, to remind us that we're not alone in this big, crazy universe.
It really is. We've been talking about the book a lot, and I've noticed something.
What's that?
It really changes how you think about astronauts.
How so?
It's not just about being physically strong and good at science and engineering.
Right. There's a lot more to it.
Orbital really gets into the psychology of it all, the emotional demands.
Makes you realize they're not superhuman. They have doubts, fears. They get bored too. Remember that scene with Nell?
Which one?
She's watching the typhoon from space.
Oh, right. That was a powerful one.
She's struck by the beauty of it, even though she knows it's going to cause devastation. It's a weird duality.
It is. That tension between scientific detachment and empathy runs through the whole book. They're supposed to be objective, right?
Collect the data. Analyze it.
But they're still human. They care about what happens down on Earth.
It makes you wonder, what kind of person chooses this life? To live in that kind of environment.
You'd have to be adaptable, for one thing, able to roll with the punches, find meaning in the middle of chaos, like Pietro.
He's one of the more experienced astronauts, right?
Yeah. He seems to have a good handle on things.
Nothing.
A more philosophical outlook, like he's made peace with the risks.
It reminds me of something he says about progress. It's not about reaching some specific goal.
It's about how you feel along the way. A sense of adventure, of pushing your limits.
We could all learn from that, I think. Whether we're going to space or just trying to navigate daily life.
Totally. But speaking of space, Orbital doesn't shy away from the big questions.
The philosophical stuff.
Yeah. Our place in the universe, all that. That cosmic calendar thing really puts things into perspective.
It's mind-blowing. Humanity's entire existence crammed into a tiny sliver of time.
You feel pretty small, huh?
It does. But it also makes you realize how much we've accomplished in such a short time. And it makes you wonder, what's next? Will we keep pushing further out into space? Will we find other life out there? Or are we stuck here?
The book doesn't give us any easy answers, but it does make you think about possibilities.
Keeps that sense of wonder alive.
Exactly. And you know what else I like about the book?
What's that?
The way it emphasizes observation. The astronauts are always looking, listening, taking notes.
Like they're trying to absorb everything around them.
Right. Trying to make sense of it. And it's not just about the science. They're observing their own thoughts and feelings too.
How this whole experience is changing them.
Exactly. Remember those lists they make? Irritating things, surprising things, things they're looking forward to.
It's such a unique way to show their inner lives.
Yeah. It's like they're trying to find some kind of order in the middle of all the chaos, holding on to those little bits of normalcy. Even in space, it's the little things that matter, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's what makes us human. And that's what makes Orbital so powerful. It's not just a science fiction story. It's about what it means to be human, to ask the big questions, to find beauty where you least expect it, to hold on to those connections that keep us grounded.
It makes you think about progress in a different way, not just reaching a destination, but how we feel along the way.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you. How do we bring that feeling into our own lives?
That is the question, isn't it? How do we keep exploring, keep pushing boundaries without losing sight of what's important? How do we find that balance between reaching for the stars and taking care of our home planet? I think that's something we should all be thinking about. Long after we finish this book, this has been The Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well-informed. Until next time, keep exploring.